All right, breaking news in the NFL tonight. Maxx Crosby traded from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Baltimore Ravens in one of the biggest trades you'll see in the National Football League. I'm Chase Sr. Welcome into the first episode of the Chase Down here on Chat Sports. This is my brand new channel, and we're always going to be talking football right here on the program. More on the show launch coming up, and of course, a reaction to this Crosby blockbuster. Let's go. It is late on a Friday night, and we are kicking off the channel with a bang. Maxx Crosby traded to the Ravens. It finally goes down after weeks of speculation. Full reaction coming up on this move for both Las Vegas and Baltimore. But first, many of you watching this show know me. Some of you might not know me. Quick intro for those of you who aren't familiar, or if you need a refresher. My name is Chase Sr., been working with Chat Sports since 2021. I've always dreamed of talking about the NFL on a national scale. Now, I'm the host of the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I've built that channel up to around 192,000 subscribers. And on that program, I talk Niners every single day, year round. That has been a true honor and a blast to cover that iconic team since 2021. On top of that, I'm also the host of Philadelphia Eagles Now. I've grown that channel to around 145,000 subscribers, and growing up in the Philadelphia area, talking about my childhood team and getting paid for it has been a dream come true. On both of those channels, reaching millions and millions of people every single month, with two of the biggest respective 49ers and Eagles channels on YouTube. And just a reminder for those of you who watch those shows, nothing is changing on those channels. By launching this show, I'm just going to add more to my plate, and I'll continue to get to that here. So literally what we've done on the 49ers Report and Eagles Now for years, how we've built both of those shows and those communities by giving the people informative, insightful, entertaining, thought-provoking football coverage that involves you, the viewers, because without all of you, all this wouldn't be possible. That's not going anywhere. But here at Chat Sports, I'm also the VP of Content Strategy. We become a powerhouse on YouTube. I've helped with company growth, channel growth. As far as my duties go at the company, on top of me being on air, doing the VP of Content Strategy, helping people with on-air development, the rise of short-form content in this new media space and world that we're living in. It's been a blast being able to grow that company from being employee 8 back in 2021. Now here we are, March 6th of 2026, and we're closing in on 50 employees when we make a couple of new hires here soon. So with how my career has gone, went to Temple University, studied broadcast journalism, been in the industry since 2015. It's insane that we're going on 11 years here. I've worked in radio, TV, podcasting, doing local news, sports, covering the NFL, Penn State football. I've done some play-by-play, and now I'm creating content here on YouTube. And we just got back from the Super Bowl. I was helping to lead our coverage there as the crew was hanging out in San Francisco all week. Just the other day, got back from a week in Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. And so all of that kind of brings me to this as I give you that introduction, the launch of this show and the launch of this channel. I grew up a student of broadcasting of all eras, reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of different personalities, watching a lot of different people. Harry Callis doing play-by-play, Bob Costas doing everything. Mike Tirico has been in his bag of late. But specifically, I grew up idolizing the likes of Colin Cowherd, Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, Scott Van Pelt. I've had so much respect for what they've done since I was a child, both on TV, radio, now in the digital space, that I've kind of wanted to follow in their footpaths and do what they do. And that's why I've gone on this career trajectory where went to Temple, headed out to Springfield, Illinois, worked for Channel 1450, covering local high school sports in college. I was on air. I was doing radio shows. I worked in news television for 3.5 years. And I've come here to Chat Sports. I started off covering the NFL, the NBA, college football. But as my Niners and Eagles channels have grown, I've been really able to build my brands in those channels on those respective platforms. In the digital space right now, I've really started to find my groove, and I absolutely love being able to have this platform and this voice. Full say over content control, sharing my opinion, sharing my analysis, and doing so without any restrictions from the bosses, doing so in a digital format that blends everything that I've always loved together: TV, radio, podcasting, long form, interviewing people. And so in the digital space right now, especially over the last few years, I've been inspired by what Pat McAfee has been able to do and build, what John Middlecoff is doing with the Three and Out podcast on the volume. Was able to chop it up with him at the Super Bowl and the NFL Combine. What the guys at Barstool have been able to do, what we've done at Chat Sports, because in an era where we are seeing a bunch of layoffs and companies downsizing or folding, we here at Chat Sports have been on this rocket ship, this crazy trajectory, and I've been a focal point of that. But what I've dreamed of doing since I was literally 5 years old, I did TV morning announcements in middle school, high school, and then in Temple, I was really involved in broadcasting. I went to Millersville for a couple of months. Shout out to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I was doing some radio and TV work there. But ever since I was young, all I've wanted to do is talk about football, the NFL, and college football on a national scale, and having my own show. So over the last couple of years, I'd say, as I've really started to gain a lot of momentum and find my groove here with my own career, mostly because of what I've done on the 49ers Report and Eagles. Now, I've been wanting to launch my own NFL channel and show for a long time. And after being at the Super Bowl, being at the NFL Combine, I come away from that seeing all of the highly successful people in this industry, and I'm inspired. I'm motivated. And right now I'm saying, F it. I'm just going to go full send it, because that's what I've always done. Work hard, be aggressive, take chances, climb the broadcasting ladder. I know the YouTube game really well. I think I'm all right at this broadcasting thing. I love talking ball. So we're off and running on the chase down. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel by hitting that sub button down below. I want to be the fastest channel in the history of Chat Sports to get the 1,000 subscribers. And what's awesome, also working at a company that believes in you, having bosses and higher ups who believe in you, and people who let you do cool stuff like this. So let's build this thing. And a couple of days ago, I reached out to my boss, James, and I said, how quickly can we get this channel off the ground? Got the okay from Brett. Arnold designed the show logo and the intro. I think it looks clean. We collaborated on ideas, coming up with what the show is going to look like from a visual component standpoint and logo branding point of view. And here we are. I was going to do a video, my first show, probably on Sunday when I was in the Chat Sports studios, but with a breaking story like this, I said, you know what? The channel's ready to go. Let's talk about this blockbuster deal. So there it is tonight. Maxx Crosby traded to the Baltimore Ravens. And all along here over the last few weeks, as this idea and these conversations have started to intensify, the question was, what's the asking price? What are the Raiders going to get if they do trade away Maxx Crosby? And the Raiders' asking price all along, what they were demanding, 2 first-round picks. And the Baltimore Ravens are going all in. They're putting their nuts on the table, and they're giving up 2 first-round picks to get it done in 2026 and 2027. And when you look at this trade, I think both teams, the Raiders, the Ravens, they win here. You think about Maxx Crosby, so close with Mark Davis, really beloved by that fan base, and that respect, admiration, that love was reciprocated. Maxx Crosby was a Las Vegas Raider to his core. He got the logo tatted on him. And that type of mentality that Al Davis built, that John Madden helped to fortify and build, is what Baltimore has been all about defensively and culturally my entire life. Starting in the early 2000s under Brian Billick, they won a Super Bowl with Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Haloti Ngata. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. What have you remembered about the Baltimore Ravens. Well-run organization led by owner Steve Bisciotti, one of the best owners in the history of professional sports. His press conference a few weeks ago was a clinic. Terry Pegula, take notes. And they've always been a defensive-oriented, tough, hard-nosed, blue-collar, gritty, physical football team. So if you're thinking of a team that Maxx Crosby could go to where he can help go from defining the Raiders way to defining what another organization stands for, the Baltimore Ravens are a great match. And for him, been in the league since 2019. He's been one of the best players in the National Football League since then as a former fourth-round pick, small school guy. He used to drive John Gruden crazy early in his career because he was always hitting the quarterback in practices in the red shirt, and Gruden went nuts, threatened to cut him, and Crosby said, if you don't want me to hit the quarterback, then you got to block me. That mentality has carried him through, and he has been a grinder. He's been a player who's never been the twitchiest, the most athletic, the strongest, the fastest. But because of his hustle, because of his football IQ, him emptying the tank on every single down, which is absolutely admirable with how he plays a game of football, he would go all out, 0 to 100, leave it all on the field for the Raiders. And now he's going to bring that to a Ravens organization that takes pride in that type of approach to the game of football. And again, for Crosby, since coming into the league, been to the playoffs once. Has only played in one playoff game in his career. He's going to be 29 years old this upcoming season. He can get the Raiders logo tatted on him, and he can preach to Raider Nation, and he will go down as an all-time Raider. But when you deal with constant dysfunction and coaches getting fired and constantly having a new boss and then having to stare down more years of a rebuild because the Raiders aren't close to winning, that can be taxing mentally, physically, spiritually. Maxx Crosby wanted to go somewhere where he could win. Going to Baltimore, he can win. There are some pieces on the defensive side of the football. You've got Lamar Jackson at quarterback. That is a team that is ready to compete and win a Super Bowl right now, and they have been in that window since Lamar took over as a starter and won MVP in his first full season as a starting quarterback. And you look at the AFC power structure right now, it's wide open. You don't know when Patrick Mahomes is coming back. The Houston Texans, great defense, but is CJ Stroud a good quarterback in this league? We absolutely have no idea. The New England Patriots just represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. They've got a lot of holes, especially at the wide receiver spot. Cincinnati Bengals, can Joe Burrow ever stay healthy? Plus, it's a dysfunctional organization. The Bills are great, but they haven't been able to get over the hump. They make the trade for Curtis Samuel. Las Vegas Raiders, Baltimore Ravens, they make a deal, and the Ravens say, hold my beer. We're going to one-up you big time and trade for Maxx Crosby here. So going back to that point where, I was talking about how I think both teams win this trade, for the Raiders, this is how you kickstart your rebuild. You pair your number one overall pick at quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, with a very bright, impressive, young, up-and-coming offensive-minded head coach who's learned from his father in Gary Kubiak, talking about Clint Kubiak here. He's coached under the likes of Kyle Shanahan. He's been a coordinator. He's called plays. He just learned under Mike McDonald, who looks to be a hell of a damn coach, who I'd love to play for if I was a player. And he just won a Super Bowl. And so you pair that quarterback up with a young, offensive-minded head coach who's going to call plays so you don't have to worry about changing OCs all the damn time, like Jalen Hurts, who's had 11 OCs in 11 years, and you get some continuity there, right? Now you start to build around those two key pillars. The Las Vegas Raiders in the 2026 draft coming up at the end of April in Pittsburgh, they've got the first overall pick. They just got the Ravens first-round selection. That is 14th overall. You get Fernando Mendoza at 1. The possibilities at 14 are endless in this draft. You need an edge rusher, you can get a really good one. You need a wide receiver, you can go wide receiver. You want an offensive tackle because you had a bad offensive line, you can go offensive line. You've got Brock Bowers, you don't need to go Kenyon Sadiq, but is there a DB that you like. Or you could trade out of 14, and the sweet spot in this draft is 50 to 75. You just compile picks and you hit on those picks. You start to build a young core. You change the culture. You can get this team turned around very quickly. Look no further than the New England Patriots, right? The turnaround from 2024 to 2025 was drastic. What did they win? 4 games 2 years ago? This past year, they won, 13, 14 games and made it to the Super Bowl? The NFL is a league where you can go from worst to first very quickly. Now, the Raiders aren't really close to doing that, I don't think, year over year from 2025 to 2026, but this is how you get that kick started. This is how you start building toward that. Because you've got 2 first-round picks this year, 1st and 14. You're going to have your own pick in 2027. Probably not going to be a winning team right away in 2026. So let's say that pick is top 15 at the very least. Then you get the Ravens selection as well. I like this strategy for Las Vegas. And I took a lot of shit when I said this back during the season when the Raiders were just so awful. But I had said they should trade Maxx Crosby and Brock Bowers, and they should get 4 or 5 first-round picks from those players and get this rebuild going, because they are so many pieces away. And how do you build? You get a quarterback on a rookie contract for the next 5 years. You get a bunch of cost-controlled assets if you hit on these draft picks. And a lot of people around the NFL really like John Spytek. The Pete Carroll thing wasn't great, but they like him as a talent evaluator. Learn under Howie Roseman. He's made some aggressive trades thus far and moves as a GM. And you can be competitive here in just a couple of years. So that's kind of the Raiders' point of view that I see right now. From the Ravens' standpoint, look, this is a win-now team. And this fits a win-now Super Bowl window type of move for Baltimore. Are there some risks here for the Raiders? I don't think there are any. Do you want to rebuild with a 29-year-old pass rusher who's ended the last 3 seasons injured, who has a cap hit north of $30 million? Get 2 first-round picks. It's worth it at this time. It's emotionally difficult to let a player like Maxx Crosby go because he's so beloved by the fan base and the organization. But this is the business of the NFL. And this is what you have to do if you want to get a rebuild going and on track. For Baltimore, they can massage Maxx Crosby's contract and make the cap hit go from like 30 plus million to around 7 million, according to Spotrac. And so that's one way that they can absorb this, even though Crosby's making a ton of dough. And for Baltimore, yeah, you give up 2 first-round picks. You see what the Rams have been able to do. F them picks. They've been able to be consistently good, competitive, and a Super Bowl contender year in, year out under Sean McVay. Giving up 2 first-round picks for a player like this, is it risky? Yes, but Maxx Crosby is a damn good football player who's going to be a great scheme fit. And if he can stay healthy, I have no doubts he'll be competitive, and he makes Baltimore so much better. You know, I think the Ravens, with defensive personnel, have kind of lost their way over the last few years. Like, they haven't really invested heavily into a star pass rusher, and it's hurt them. A guy on the edge who has more than 100 TFLs since coming into the league, who is one of the best sack artists and pass rush technicians in the NFL, a guy who plays so hard, who's great for your culture. You have no questions there. This is a real deal move for Baltimore, bringing in a real deal player who I think can really help them. For the Raiders, you got to figure out the whole organizational element to this and building your culture. You got to hit on your picks. This whole Alex Guerrero, Maxx Crosby thing was a little bit weird. What keeps bad organizations bad is bad ownership and a lack of stability. A little bit concerned about that with Las Vegas. I trust Tom Brady because he's the GOAT. John Spytek, a lot of people rave about him. Mark Davis is willing to invest in his football team and do things to try to get back to a winning formula. But if you don't get some of those cracks sealed up and a foundation set, things can continue to go awry. But if the Raiders sit on their picks here, wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years they're one of the better teams in the AFC. I like Clint Kubiak. I love Fernando Mendoza. I think he's going to be a really good pro whose skill set translates. If Kurt Cignetti liked him, I trust his player evaluation. Plus, with my own eyes, I just love how Mendoza throws with such great timing, touch, accuracy, and anticipation. I mean, how many times did you see him throw those back shoulder fades or those touch throws where he had to layer throws, where he gave his receivers a chance? You can't teach that. I mean, you can have a rocket arm and you can be 6'5", 250. You can be built like Anthony Richardson and throw down windmill dunks on the fast break. And people will say, wow, you can make that back-footed throw week 1 a couple of years ago, drop right in the bucket for, I believe, Alec Pierce. And people will say, oh my gosh, what a throw. Doesn't mean that you can be a consistent and successful quarterback in this league. But Mendoza's skill set, I do think translates to being a quality NFL player. I like the character. I like the size. I love the toughness. He was getting lit up by Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain against Miami in the Natty. How about that hit that he took to start the game against Ohio State? Popped. What did he do? Came back in. He was wheeling and dealing. Wasn't fazed by it. And some people were making some Kirk Cousins comparisons. I don't see that, man. I more so see a guy who kind of reminded me of Sam Bradford at Oklahoma. And don't start laughing. Don't disrespect Sam Bradford. Go look at what he did at Oklahoma. He was throwing more than 50 touchdowns, under 10 picks. He was incredible. He's always hurt, but he was a damn good college quarterback with a skill set that looked like he was going to be a franchise quarterback. Too many injuries, went to a bad team, lost his confidence. That's what football will do to you. Professional sports will do to you. But Mendoza, how about that run that he had against Miami? It was athletic, the ability to hang tough in the pocket, good pocket feel, good accuracy, layering throws. Again, the touch, the timing, the anticipation. It's high-level stuff. And then those other draft picks give you a lot of flexibility as a team. How about this? Players who have fetched at least 2 first-round picks in return in the history of the NFL. Maxx Crosby, Sauce Gardner, Micah Parsons, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Laramie Tunsil, Jamal Adams, Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey, Jay Cutler, Ricky Williams, Keyshawn Johnson, Jeff George, Eric Dickerson, Herschel Walker. Outside of the quarterbacks there, I think Crosby might be the oldest of that group. And for Baltimore, it's a gamble. But I'm willing to gamble and take chances on elite, great, high-level, franchise cornerstone, pillar players. And that's what Maxx Crosby is. Another storyline of this as well is that Jesse Minter, former Chargers DC, now the Ravens head coach who takes over for John Harbaugh, rookie head coach. Clint Kubiak, rookie head coach. You've got rookie head coaches on each side of this and rookie head coaches in completely different situations and scenarios. Clint Kubiak, rebuild. Jesse Minter, win now. You should be a Super Bowl contender in 2026. Otherwise, you don't make this move. But Eric DeCosta, good GM. He's got to start hitting on some picks a little bit more often, but he's learned from the great Ozzie Newsome. Interviewed him last week at the NFL Combine. Very impressed by what he does. Steve Bisciotti, a great owner. Raiders trying to get there. And you get there by making a move like this, compiling picks. And if you hit on these draft selections, this is how you get back into Super Bowl contention. Build through the draft because those players are affordable for the next 4 or 5 years. And you help to build a culture. And for the Raiders, hopefully it's a winning culture. I mean, look at what the Eagles have done with Howie Roseman. They have hit so often in the draft. I think 21 of 22 starters over the last few years since 2021 drafted in the first 3 rounds have ended up being starters for the Eagles. Made it to 2 Super Bowls during that stretch. So, first episode of the Chase Down in the books. If you made it until the end of the video, please give me a real one down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm so excited to start this journey. And we're off and running here on the Chase Down. So honored to be hosting this show, and I really appreciate your support.